Well, this is week 2 of Larger Story Church, and what we're going to do every week after we're done is do a recap video for those of you who couldn't join us for church tonight. I understand it's Friday night, it's life, so we're going to leave this here on Saturdays for anybody who missed joining us together, so you can not be part of all the conversations because those happened here and they were sacred, but you can be part of the learning, part of the scriptures that we talked about, part of some of the conversations that we had. So you can have these conversations at home, with your roommates, with your family, around dinner, with your friends, whatever. We're going to provide these resources for you week after week. So you can be a part of this conversation then next week when you can join us next Friday. So for week 2 here, just want to say up front, we did not get to the Bible teaching tonight because we had a long conversation that was the beginning, but also very beautiful and honest and helpful. So I'm going to give you the recap of that conversation, because one of the things that's going to be a part of Larger Story Church is talking about the social injustice that has been going on for quite a while. Something about this death of George Floyd has been the tipping point for America, where the majority now finally understand this systemic injustice that's been going on for a very long time. And I just want to say, as white evangelical church, it is heartbreaking that we missed it with Trayvon Martin, we missed it with Tamir Rice, we missed it with Sandra Bland, we missed it with the others. But now we're here, we're at this point, and I am committing this church to be talking about these issues, because I believe change is happening whether we're a part of it or not. I mean, the younger generation is going to make this change happen. But for the church to be a part of it, it's going to be conversations and it's going to be prayer. We're going to do both of these through Larger Story Church so that we can be a part of this change that is happening. So, just some stuff that we talked about tonight, or some background leading into how this is going to be a part of our church, is, let me start with this quote from Coretta Scott King. "Struggle is a never-ending process. Freedom is never really won. You earn it and you win it in every generation." Coretta Scott King, she's the widow of Martin Luther King Jr. We win it in every generation. This generation is moved by what happened to George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, and we go back and we go back and we go back. And this George Floyd one was the tipping point. They have had enough. And so this is now a cry of this generation, and I'm going to let them lead on it. But as a church, I want to be there having conversations and having prayer. And I want our teens to be able to talk about it, our millennials to be able to talk about it, so that they can do the leading well with God's wisdom and God's justice going forth. So we're going to have these conversations. I also gave this quote from this book, We're Called to Be a Movement, by Reverend Dr. William J. Barber, a very inspiring pastor. And he said this, and this rings so true. Listen, we've had 2 reconstructions, one between 1868 and 1896, and then we had a second reconstruction, 1954 to 1968. And I think America needs a 3rd reconstruction. I think this is the birth pains of it. Doesn't that seem true with what's going on right now, what's happened this summer? That something has shifted in this world. We all see that there are people dying needlessly, there are souls dying, and that there is a problem. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to be part of this 3rd restoration movement. That sounds exciting, and I want the church as a whole, and I want our church to be a part of it. But I also share, as I say this, understand this is not happening overnight. This is not going to be some new law that's going to be enacted and wham bam, we're a changed nation. And we're going to be correcting these decades long problems of systemic injustice. This is a marathon. This is going to be slow and uncomfortable. And when we talk about issues of race, class, and culture, there are 4 emotions that always come up: grief, anger, fear, and shame. Let me repeat: grief, fear, anger, and shame. Now, in normal times, we don't deal with any of those emotions well, do we? Those are uncomfortable emotions we want to move through quickly to get to the other side of it. This is not normal times. And we can't move through quickly to the other side of this because there's so much change that needs to happen. So we're going to be feeling these emotions of grief, fear, anger, and shame. And we got to let those emotions change us. And we also, and I shared this a lot in our conversations, if you're feeling fear, grief, anger, and shame, pay attention to yourself. If someone in the room is feeling fear, grief, anger, and shame, and that may be affecting their answers, also pay attention to that. Give them grace. These are uncomfortable emotions. So tonight, when I opened up the floor for this conversation, we had an 85-year-old share of his experience in Jim Crow days, and we had one of our people talk about how he was held up by gunpoint. Gun shoved into his stomach, and he lived. Was not shot, but the next victim was shot. And the fear that caused him, and has caused him, but yet he's trying to overcome that fear and not let that paint everybody. So it was a real honest conversation, and I challenge you to be a part of that. In the comment section, I'm going to leave the video we used as our discussion point. This was our starter. So you can watch that, and you can have your own discussion with the people in your life about this. And then we spent some time together just in intercessory prayer. And this is why we didn't get to the Bible teaching. Because we just spent time interceding on behalf of this huge issue. Noting that twice in the book of Psalms, it says that justice is the foundation of God's throne. And there's injustice happening right now. But justice is the foundation of God's throne, and God is going to take care of this. We need to pray. We need to have these conversations. We need to intercede so that this change can happen. So that was our recap for the night. It was, like I said, it was raw. We had tears again. Please have these conversations with your people. Use this video. There's the scriptures on the Facebook page or in your email from last week. You've got time again to study them for this week, because we're going to go into this week's Bible teaching next week. And also a little announcement. Our conversation next week is going to be with our missionaries. Kevin and Sarah Witt are going to be live with us from Botswana, Africa. And they're going to be live with us at 2 a.m. their time. So come ready with your questions to ask about life in Botswana, life with COVID in Botswana, and life as a missionary. And let's have a conversation with our missionaries. And then we will get to this biblical teaching, I promise. I hope. May the Holy Spirit lead us. Thanks for joining us. I'll see you guys next Friday.